The fourth part begins in a very exciting car race on the fans' platform where the heroes of our movie Hunt, Janet, Lori, Nick, and the fans who were really enjoying the race. Nick went to get drinks for his friends and came back and sat down, but he noticed that the seat they were sitting on was broken. He started to look at the whole building and saw that there were cracks in the wall and that the platform looked very old. Nick started to feel that something was wrong. Nick felt death coming. In front of the platform there was a car maintenance station, and one of the cars stopped because its tire was flat. The driver was in a hurry, so he left quickly after the tire was changed. The mechanic, while removing a wrench, accidentally left it hanging on the car. As the car drove off, the wrench fell onto the track and was run over by another car, causing its tire to explode. That car flipped over, and its tire flew onto the platform, killing 2 spectators. Another car also flipped, caught fire and crashed into the fans' platform. People started to run away, but they couldn't escape. There was a man and his wife who tried to run, but they didn't make it. A piece of the car flew at them and cut them in half. A girl got crushed under a car, and the platform began to collapse, falling on the fans' heads, including Hunt and Janet. Nick and Lori tried to escape, but an explosion killed Lori and the guard George, who was standing next to her. He pushed Nick onto a metal pole that pierced his body and killed him immediately. Nick woke up from this terrifying nightmare or vision and found himself still sitting on the platform. He started screaming at his friends after realizing what happened, telling them that something was going to happen and that the place was going to collapse. "Let's get out of here." Hunt told him to stop being silly and that he wasn't going to miss the race he had been waiting for. But Nick shouted at him and pulled him, bumping into other fans, who also got up and started a fight, so they all got kicked out. The guard George went out with them. Nick tried to convince them something was going to happen, but before he could finish, the accident actually happened. People started screaming and running. There was a man named Daniel whose wife was inside, so he tried to get in to save her, but George told him he couldn't let him in because it was too dangerous and the place was collapsing, just like in Nick's dream. This time, Nick and his friends and some other fans who left with them survived the disaster. After what happened, Nick and Lori gathered with Hunt and Janet and talked about what happened. They asked Nick how he knew, so he told them about his dream. Lori believed him, but Hunt, who was very arrogant, boasted that he had escaped death and that he would enjoy his life and that nothing could stop him now. If he had known what was coming, he wouldn't have thought that way. The next day, at night, they made a memorial for the people who died. Nick and Lori go, and the families of the victims and survivors are there. They met one of the survivors who got out because of him, and she thanks him. They also met the guard George, who thanked them and asked how Nick knew it would happen. Before Nick could answer, Daniel, who was arguing with the guard, interrupted them, blaming him for not letting him save his wife, and because of him, his wife died. He threatened him and left after Nick went home and slept. He had a strange dream. He saw a car with a distinctive keychain hanging in it, but didn't understand what it meant. He woke up startled. Then we saw that what he dreamed about was Daniel's car and the keychain. Daniel was driving, drunk, and went to take revenge on guard George. He arrived at his house with a shovel and a piece of wood. While digging, he dropped the keychain onto the car's gear stick, which started the car. The pizza box fell on the gear shift, moving it, and the car started. Daniel tried to stop it, but his leg got caught in the chain attached to the car jack, and he was dragged along. The chain scraped the pavement, creating sparks that set Daniel and the car on fire. George came out to the sound and saw Daniel being dragged by the burning car, which exploded, and Daniel's charred body landed at George's feet. The next day, Daniel's death was on the news. Lori saw it and told Nick, who said he dreamed of Daniel's death and saw that car before. At that moment, Nick had another vision. He saw scissors, a bent metal rod, and a flying stone, starting to realize that these dreams were warnings of their death, but he didn't fully understand yet. After that, 2 brothers were in the street, throwing stones at a man mowing the lawn. Their mother was one of the people Daniel saved, and she thanked him when she found out. The mother arrived, scolded her kids, and gave them money to buy something. She then went into the hair salon to get her hair done, and sat in a chair that the worker raised, using a metal rod similar to the one Nick saw in his dream. Luckily, nothing disastrous happened, except the chair fell and the kids came running in and slipped on water on the floor. The hair straightener overheated, causing a spray bottle to fly and hit the fan, which fell and almost hit the mother. The mother was still alive. She left with her kids, and the man was still mowing the lawn outside. His small mower ran over a stone the kids had thrown, launching it into the mother's eye, and killing her. News of her death reached Nick, who gathered his friends again, trying to convince them that this was serious and that they could all die. But Hunt thought he was Superman and couldn't die. while Janet was too scared to believe it was real and leaves. Nick stayed with his friend Lori, telling her everything, and she believed him. They went to check the surveillance cameras to see who they needed to warn and discovered someone wearing mechanic's clothes. They found out where he worked from the shop's name on his uniform, and went to him to explain what happened, but he didn't believe them. In the garage, the winch that was lifting one of the cars started lowering it toward the mechanic, but it didn't hit him. He was just a few centimeters from death. The mechanic told Nick, "Don't worry about me. We were supposed to die. That car should have killed me, but I just barely made it out." He didn't complete his words, and the crane flies from its place and crash into the fire extinguishers, causing an explosion. The mechanic's thrown forcefully against the fence, getting sliced into pieces. Then, Lori asks Nick who was harmed, and he tells her that both Hunt and Janet were hit at the same time when the platform fell on them. Nick goes to save Hunt and George, and Lori go to Janet. Nick rushes to Hunt to warn him, but Hunt was just enjoying his life at the pool, not thinking about anything, just walking by the pool. A little boy was pestering him and splashing water on him. Because Hunt was with a child, time slipped away and the child took his water gun and put it aside, but the gun fell on the pool controls and activated the water suction system. As Hunt was sitting, a coin fell from him into the water, so he went down to get it, but the suction vent pulled him in, and Hunt started getting sucked in. Nick arrives looking for him, but Hunt is underwater and can't get out. The suction gets stronger and stronger until Hunt is sucked in and dies, his blood coming out in the pool and the suction device. At the same time, Janet is at the car wash and sends a message to Lori to tell her she's there and will call her after she finishes. When she enters the car wash, her car, which had a problem with the sunroof opening and closing by itself, suddenly experiences an electrical issue. The conveyor belt stops, and the car is stuck inside. Janet tries to get out, but can't. Then the sunroof opens, water starts pouring into the car and a big pipe above the car comes loose, pouring water on Janet. The car fills with water. Janet sticks her head out the sunroof, but can't get the rest of her body out. The car wash starts working again. The car moves, but luckily Lori and George arrive, push Janet's car from the other side, and Lori saves Janet. After saving Janet, George tells Lori, "There are two possibilities. Either we've broken the death cycle by saving Janet, or it's not over and it's coming for us." He says he doesn't mind dying so he can go to his wife who left him. The same day Nick and Lori goes to Lori's house, but they found him hanged but still alive, so they saved him and started telling him he's crazy for acting like this. He says he wants to die his own way, tried to commit suicide many times, but always failed, swallowed a lot of drugs, but survived. So Nick and Lauren told him, "This means that we broke the chain and curse of death, and that we are safe." So they celebrated and were happy. The next day Nick has another vision, and remembers it's not George's turn, but another man who didn't leave with them, because rocks fell on him, but they saved him and took him to the hospital. He says he'll check the hospital, and finds an old man doing physical therapy in a bath. The nurse leaves him, the water keeps running, overflows, and leaks to the floor below, where the man who's next to die is. He tries to call for help, but can't make it. Then it's George's turn, then Lori. But George doesn't make it. A car hits him, and he dies. At that time Lori is with Janet at the mall. They go to the cinema, but there are construction workers behind the cinema, with oils and paints and flammable material. There are many openings. Sunlight comes in, and a pair of glasses is placed at the same angle as the sun's rays. The lens focuses the rays onto wooden ashes on the floor, which starts to smolder and the fire slowly moves towards the flammable material. If the fire reaches them, it will surely explode. Nick arrives at the cinema, finally finds Lori, tells her to get out quickly. She leaves with him, but Janet says it's over. Nothing will happen. She wants to finish her movie and tells them to go ahead. But as soon as Nick and Lori leave, the explosion happens. Janet is killed. Nick and Lori run, but the building starts to collapse. The escalator is destroyed. Lori's leg gets caught in the escalator mechanism. She gets pulled in. Nick tries to save her, but she slips away and gets torn to pieces by the escalator belt. But suddenly we discover it was all a vision, and he is still in the hospital after George was hit by the car. He goes to the cinema again, but this time goes straight to the construction area, and tries to prevent the explosion. He puts out the fire, but a small spark flies to some other wood, and starts another fire. There is a table with a nail gun, which falls and shoots nails into Nick's arm, pinning him to the wall. Nick tries to move and put out the fire before it reaches the barrels, but he grabs a burning piece of wood, raises it to the fire extinguisher on the ceiling to trigger the smoke sensor and release water. At the last moment, the fire is put out, and no one in the cinema dies. Even Nick survives, but with a cast, because of the nails in his arm. 3 weeks later, he goes out to meet Laurie and Janet at a cafe, meets someone who thanks him for stopping the explosion in the cinema and saving many people. Nick sits with the girls and asks them the eternal question, after feeling the same sense of death again, and says, what if we didn't change anything, and our being here in this moment is death's plan from the start? As they continue their normal conversation in the cafe, a big truck crashes into all of them, killing them.